Since the 1970s, the Yale School of Music has always had 200 majors. That's all. It is a graduate professional school of music. So our task is to educate the leading young artists and composers of the next generation, and to train them not only as artists and composers, but as cultural leaders. 40% of that number come from foreign countries. Normally we have about 35 to 40 different countries represented. So China has taken an increasing role in the past decade. And I'm very happy for that. I've been coming to China since 1989. And from the time I was 10 years old, I was always very, very interested in your nation, its culture, its accomplishments, and its historical role on our planet. Normally in recent years especially, when I've performed here, I always try to perform a Chinese piece. Last fall I played in Shenzhen, and I did a little talk first before the piece, and then an improvisation on a very famous Chinese lullaby. But I think it's very important for a foreign performer to learn and to understand and to appreciate and to try to express their feelings of the Chinese music. My first musical experience, however, was Peking opera, which I found extraordinary. I was able to go to the makeup session, which took about 3.5 hours. I was amazed, just absolutely amazed. But when you hear your opera in its original kind of performance, there are no microphones, and the conductor of the small orchestra knows everything from memory. Everybody is playing from memory. It's oral tradition. It's very, very beautiful. It sounds different. I remember going to the opening of The Egg and going to one of the Chinese opera, and I thought, why do they do this? There's so much microphone and sound. We do the same thing, you know. And you lose a certain kind of beauty from the intimacy of those early instruments and singing. Yeah. But it's a very, very beautiful art form, and more people are trying to preserve it, which is a good thing. I think that music plays probably the most, or can play, the most important role, because everybody understands the musical language. So if you know, we come to your country and we don't speak your language, and we're sitting together making music, we understand that. So we might have a quartet with a violinist from Shenzhen, another violinist from Dallas, a cellist from Finland. They can play beautifully because they all understand that one language, you know. I think music brings hope, and so does art, all of the arts. If you go back to the 70s and look at a time when the relationship between China and the United States was tense, in some ways like it is today a little bit between the governments. And so Nixon was the president of the United States then, and he decided to come to China with a ballet. And art can't solve a political problem or a economic problem, but what it can do is bring everybody with different ideas to a table because of that one common language that we all share and feel. We have this incredible emotional response to what we see and what we hear, and I think music is critical in that role. In terms of artificial intelligence, I think we're still at the front of the frontier on it. We're just beginning to discover what it can and cannot do. And already it has many different kinds of applications. I think it can do a lot in terms of creating new kinds of music, different sounds. It can become a co-creator with the performer. I mean, we have to remember that artificial intelligence mimics the human experience. It cannot be the human experience. And that's the defining line. And I think the role of music ultimately is to say something that is indescribable, that's ineffable. And how we do that, though, how we inform ourselves to help us do it, is a way artificial intelligence can be of assistance to the process. I think it's critically important because it's about creativity. You know, you want someone to be able to express certain things. And how can you express thoughts and feelings that you have where you feel that no one else, you can't rely on anyone else to express this, you have to do it yourself. Genuine passion for anything is important. How we approach it with the idea that we are competing against ourselves. We're not trying to beat someone else. We're trying to develop our own skill as well as we can. As a performer, what it means is that I'm driven to perform. There are lots of interests that I have and things that I would love to do. But if I were unable to really engage in music and make music, then I would have to rethink who I am and what I do, because for most musicians, and particularly performers and composers, at some point this spiritual hand reaches down and it grabs our heart and it squeezes it and it says, this is what you must do.